Cricbuzz chatter then at the end of day 3 of this test match. As it turns out, also the end of the test match itself, the end of the series. We came to Ahmedabad from Chennai and only got 5 days of cricket. The pink ball game, 2 days. Now this one just lasted 3 days. Why are test matches ending so early? What did India do right? What did England do wrong? So much to talk about. This is how it ended then finally. England won another good toss to win. Couldn't take advantage of it. Made only 205. I thought Stokes was really good in that innings with 55. Lawrence showed his potential in both innings. But the moment India went from 146 for 6, 121 for 5, 146 for 6 to 365, largely through Pant and Washington Sundar, it just went out of control for England and didn't start too well and finished just 135. Right, as usual, Michael Vaughan is alongside us to take us through not just this test match, but Michael, the entire series. So let's look at India's strengths first, then let's look at what England did right and wrong. India just seemed to have the players for the surfaces, for the conditions, and just seemed to have ready players, did they, as the series went along?
Yeah, I mean, they're a high-class team in Indian. They're a high-class test match team. In my opinion, they're the best in the world because they've got the skill sets to play when the ball's spinning. Obviously, that we've seen in the last 3 test matches. When the ball's bouncing, we saw that in Australia because of the seam attack that they have and also batters that can cope with the bouncing ball now. I guess the big challenge for this Indian test match team now, can they come and win in English conditions when the ball's swinging around? They came here last time and lost 4-1, but it was a series that could quite easily have gone either way. I do think they're good enough. And what England have to be very careful of is that mindset of, oh, wait a minute, wait until we get you in our backyard when the ball's hooping around. Anderson and Broad will do you again like we did last time, 4-1. England have got to be careful of that because they're going to get unstuck if they continue to go with that mindset. In this series, they've been outskilled on spinning surfaces because the Indians are a better team. But I don't think India are that far away from winning in English conditions as well. They're that good a test match team these days.
I thought England started off really well in Chennai, but the turning point of the series, as Virat mentioned as well today in the post-match presentation, was that century on a difficult track in Chennai from Rohit Sharma. Sometimes just one innings can galvanize a side, and I think you've been using the word juggernaut ever since. But it wasn't it, Michael? That one innings that turned the tide for India.
Yeah, I mean, and also it was evident that the surfaces changed. They started to prepare pitches to spin. Again, I have no problem with that. I had no problem in this test match with the surface. And when you get on a surface like the ones that we've seen, you need high-class quality players that can play defensively well. We saw that from Rishabh Pant yesterday, but in Rohit Sharma at the top of the order, because the ball swung around a little bit as well. It's been nibbling a bit. It's been swinging through the air. We didn't think that we'd see too much of that, but it has done this week, and he was there with rock-solid defence. But I guess when you're 1-0 down and you need to get back into the series, that first day of the second test becomes so important. And Rohit Sharma led the way, particularly in that first session where he came out and attacked and got so many runs. And I think we said at the time that the 300 that they got on that first day felt like 550 because we'd seen the pitch in that second test match spin from ball one. And pretty much from that first day of the second test match, I know England have had moments. Yesterday they had a moment when they had India at 6 wickets down that we thought, oh, parity, halfway house. But ultimately, I always look back at the 2 test matches in Ahmedabad. 112 in the first innings in that pink ball game. It's just not enough. And 205 in this test match on a pitch that was doing very little. You don't win test matches against quality teams getting those kind of first innings scores.
I think Ravi mentioned the point as well that England had their moments, much as India had their moments on that last tour to England that you talked about. To me, one of the most interesting things, and that didn't happen, say, 10, 15 years ago, is that the players coming through the ranks seem more ready than ever before. You look at Akshar Patel, just turns up, no Jadeja. Okay, let's look for like. Akshar Patel gives you 27 wickets. Washington Sundar comes through. He's played the IPL, not a lot of first-class cricket, only 11 or 12 games before this. He comes in and shows that he is ready as well. I know it could be these conditions, but the players coming through the ranks just seem ready. And I'd like to see in August when India go there, if the Popes and the Crawleys and the Sibleys and the Lawrences, and I thought Lawrence was impressive, also start performing like that from an English point of view. But Michael Vaughan, you've been with us right through the series. Are there, if you had to pick 4 or 5 moments from the series, what would you pick?
I'd go Joe Root. I think he has
Yes.
kind of played very well that double century in the first Test match. You go back to the 2 Test matches in Sri Lanka as well. He's been the standout batter, the one player that's looked to have a technique and a control against the spinning deliveries. He really has papered over some cracks, actually. Without his runs in Sri Lanka in that first Test match, England would have been on the back end of a real poor 6 Test matches. He's a quality guy, a quality human being. So he's one. I'll go Jimmy Anderson as well. Jimmy Anderson, I just think, you talk of fine wines getting better with age. Well, Jimmy Anderson is that Petrus from 1965. He's getting better series after series. When you honest to think 7 or 8 years ago, people were saying, he can't bowl away from England. Well, he's answered those questions quite.
Says the man who makes gin for a living, and he's talking about wine.
Yeah, shush. Yeah. All right, he's a fine gin. Gin gets better as well. Yeah. Rishabh Pant, his batting yesterday was great in terms of clarity, maturity, playing the situation of Test match cricket properly. Fantastic. But I think his keeping, a lot of pressure was under, about his keeping. Can he catch the ball? The first Test match, he had a poor game. Got a lot of criticism. He's bounced back, and I think his keeping has got better and better. The stumping of Ollie Pope today, a little bit fortunate, but brilliant, to get those bails off so quickly. So I think he's a big plus for India. R. Ashwin, I think he's all-round brilliance, not just the way that he bowls. He's going to go down as a great of the game in terms of his bowling. His 100, obviously, but it's his thinking. I just think he's got a real good cricket brain. And then I would say the last, and probably surprising, I don't think we've spoken about them enough, I think the on-field umpiring has been to a great standard. I really do. When you think the ball's spinning, spitting, fielders around the bat, it seems like there's been an appeal every other over, if not every over, for the course of the last 3 Test matches. And they've got some really good decisions right. So I think the on-field umpires deserve a little bit of praise.
I'm delighted you said that. Nitin Menon is now on the ICC elite panel. I thought he was outstanding right through the series. Comes from a cricketing background. His father was a very good Ranji Trophy player up in the central zone for Madhya Pradesh, but he's come through really well. And I'm delighted, Michael, that you pointed that out. The on-field umpiring on difficult pitches was excellent. Let's look at England a little bit. And you mentioned about Joe Root just papering over the cracks. We looked at when he came into bat in the last few innings. The only time he's come into bat after 20 overs was in that first innings in Chennai when they got off to a good start. They got a 70-80 opening stand, and he got a double 100. Thereafter, except for one innings, he's been in the first 10 overs, and that's not helped at all. So as a result, he's had far too much to do. He's looked in a different class. There's no doubt at all. And it's noticeable as well that the moment that they saw the surface at Chennai, England just disintegrated. There's one score of 200 plus. The wickets were challenging, but they were not as bad as those scores suggest. England also won 3 tosses. So I think that is where they probably lost out.
Yeah, it was only the pink ball game that I really had a little bit of a gripe with the pitch. It's skill and it's the ability to get better. And that's been the disappointing factor from an England perspective, that they haven't seemed to have got better game after game. If anything, they've probably got a little bit worse. The baggage of Test cricket failures seems to have been a heavy burden on the players. No surprise that Joe Root came in after 20 overs in that first Test, gave the kind of time to just settle in, watch, and then all of a sudden he gets a big score. If England are going to compete against the best teams, they have to find a top 3 that can nullify that initial hour. The first session here, when England lost 3 for 30, when the pitch wasn't doing a great deal, Axar Patel getting 2 for in his first couple of overs. That is where this England Test match team have got a lot of learning to do, because against India in the summer, when there's 5 Test matches against the moving ball, Australia in the winter. And that's why I have a huge amount of respect. Washington Sundar, the easiest thing would be to say, oh yeah, but he's playing in his own backyard. But he did it in Australia, in Brisbane. The hotbed of Australian cricket is Brisbane, the Gabba. You don't see Australia lose there. He went there and did it in that hotbed of cricketing ground. Rishabh Pant's done it in Australia. So for England, if they're sitting back thinking, oh, we'll get them to England with a juke ball, they'll be whipping all over the place, we'll hammer India in these conditions, they've got to be careful, because India will surprise them if they're going with that mentality. This summer is going to be a very, very tight Test match series in the UK.
And let's talk a little bit about that Indian spin attack. Over the years, there's been Kumble and Harbhajan, sometimes only Kumble, sometimes only Harbhajan. There were always good spinners around those. Then Ashwin and Jadeja. Now Ashwin and Akshar, 32 wickets, Ashwin. 27 in 3 games for Akshar. That's the best on debut by an Indian bowler. Dilip Doshi got 27 as well. Those were in 6 test matches. So just that Indian spin combination. Were England spooked in the mind? Were those two just in terms of sheer ability that much better? How did you read that? Or was it a combination of the surfaces and their skill that became a little too hot to handle?
I think a little bit of everything, Harsha. I think the pitches, obviously, it obviously helped the spinners. I think after that initial second test match where it didn't go well for England, they went in the mind. And then they started to play too mmany kind of shots. They were trying to be too proactive. They didn't trust their defence because they were expecting the ball to be spitting, and they were kind of playing as if they were going to get one of the unplayable deliveries. I get that after one innings, but to continuously go out in that fashion, that's where I've been disappointed with the England batting. Axar Patel, I think England made him look like Bisham Bedi and Derek Underwood rolled into one. You know, that's the kind of bowler he seemed to be. I'm sure he's not. When you think of Ravi Jadeja will come back into this side, I'm sure, because of the all-round quality that he gives. What India have done by giving Axar Patel those 3 test matches, again, the squad grows. And that's why I look at Indian cricket. They've got competition in all aspects of their team. And I think at the start of the series, Harsh, if you had said that Virat Kohli, Pujara and Rahane would average below 28 in the series and England would lose 3-1, I'd have said no chance. No chance, surely not, because they're the powerhouse of this Indian batting lineup. So England have actually kept the powerhouse, apart from Rohit Sharma, very quiet. And that's why that middle order works so well for India. Ashwin getting a few runs, Rishabh Pant, Washington Sundar. And Test match cricket is about a batting lineup. It's about that depth in batting. That's been one of the modern changes of the game, making sure that you've got depth in your batting. And it's been a thorn in England's overseas campaigns for quite a few series against the better team. I remember, I think it was 16-17 Ashes series, Brad Haddon kept on arriving at number 7 and getting runs and getting Australia to that above par score. And it's happened again in this series. And that's something that England have got to get better at, getting rid of those tail. But full credit to India. They've got a group of players now, Harsha, that you said to me, if I said to you, come on, pick an Indian test team in a year or so's time, I mean, that group of players is grown and grown and grown. It's going to be very, very difficult to iron out in 11 players going forward. They've got that much quality.
You make a very valid point about the lower half actually papering over the top half. Virat Kohli didn't have his best series by any means. Pujara had a 70 early on and tapered off after that. Ajinkya Rahane had a crucial 67, but one score of note. I thought little counter-attacking 20s and 30s. I think Virat Kohli made it a point to mention that in the post-match presentation, that in this series, those 20s, 30s were making a difference. But it really, if you come down to that, it was what Washington Sundar did here and in Chennai. It was what Rishabh Pant did a couple of times. That is papering over the cracks. When India go to England, those top 3, 4, 5 will have to continue to fire because you cannot rely on the bottom to bail you out. But post-Australia, there's been a big change in the way India is selecting their teams. And they're not saying, okay, top 6 batsmen, keeper, top 4 bowlers like all the great teams of the past have done. They're saying, no, we want batting and we want batting deep. So Washington comes in because he can bat also in place of Kuldeep, if you remember, early on in the series. So India now punting on batting deep. And I think that's paying off. If Akshar Patel bats at 9, he bats at 6 in domestic cricket. I think that paid off as well. Post-Australia, that's going to be the way India are going to look at things.
Yeah, I think you can do that when you've got 4 quality bowlers. I think when you start sniffing out a 5th bowling option, sometimes you can lessen your batting or improve upon your bowling. I like test teams that pack the batting. I don't think it's negative. I think it's the way to go. Getting runs in this modern era of the game seems to be the hardest skill set. You know, I think it's an era where we're seeing if the ball moves around slightly, spins slightly, teams have a vulnerability about them in their mindset to just trust their games, trust their technique. So I would favour in this era packing the batting. You look at someone like Hardik Pandya, who's not even play. I mean, I'm sure he's going to be a valuable member of the test team overseas, particularly in English conditions. When those 5 test matches start, the ball will swing around. It probably won't swing around as much as we're talking because it's August and September. And you might get surprised, Harsh. We can get sunshine in the UK. So by the time that India arrive, those wickets may be dry and it might spin. I mean, Moeen Ali's had success in English conditions against India with the ball spinning. So the likes of Ashwin and Jadeja, Akshar Patel, it wouldn't surprise me if India, by the time they come here, in terms of when the test matches are being played, play with two spinners, but also by playing Jadeja or Akshar and Ashwin and Rishabh Pant, you're packing your batting so much, you know, and then you put in a Hardik Pandya as your third seamer, that packs your batting even more. And then you go two of Shami, Bumrah, Siraj, Sharma, Yadav. They've got a quality group of players, Harsha. I mean, Ravi Shastri's done a tremendous job, and I love his character, love him, but he has got a group of players to play with. And when you think of the year that we're in terms of T20 World Cup in India, 5 test matches in the UK, it really could be a special year. They've already won in Australia. Now they've beaten England. This could be a tremendous year for Indian cricket with what's to come, because they've certainly got enough talent and enough players in terms of depth to win in England, to win a T20 World Cup, and on the back of winning in Australia, it could be some year 2021.
I also thought India spooked England a little bit with the talk of turning pitches. Yes, 2 of them turned, but a third one was a fine surface, and somehow England just struggled to pick the right combinations to play in that series. For the pink ball test, as Michael said earlier on the program, they probably picked that team too early, and the surface they found was a bit different. Then they thought it's going to be exactly the same surface, and they found themselves a seam bowler short. So that can sometimes happen with the touring teams as well. And as a result, they were never really able to either put the runs on the board or have enough bowling firepower to go through India. But as I said, that happens with touring teams. Right, there you are then, 3-1. That's the way it ended. I thought there's some people at the start who might have predicted 3-1 too. But look ahead as well. The tour is not over, Michael. And I suspect, and I'd love to hear from you, I suspect England are actually moving on to their stronger arm in T20 and one-day international cricket, where the pitches will be flatter. And England, I think, just have a greater balance and greater strength around them.
Yeah, when they've got more experience, and they're obviously the world champions in 50-over cricket, dynamic with the white ball, and England will be at full strength. For the T20s, they are going to be at full strength. They've decided upon this selection rotation. I don't agree with it. I think the 4 tests in India would have been the pinnacle of the winter for me. I would have rested.
Actually, give it a go, Michael. Give it a go one final time on the rotation. I asked Joe Root that he had to be diplomatic while answering that, and I can understand that there are issues with protecting players, but the rotation hurt them very badly.
Yeah, they got it wrong, Harsha. You got 4 test matches against India, the best team in the world in their own backyard. You're a developing test match team on the back of a very good year and a half, winning in South Africa, beating Pakistan, beating the West Indies, winning in Sri Lanka. Surely for a team that's just on what looked like the upward curve, the biggest challenge would have been to put out your best players for 4 test matches against India. And if that meant that the likes of a Butler or Jofra or Ben Stokes misses the one-day series and the T20s in India, that's the way I would have gone, because they're going to get so much experience playing in the IPL of Indian conditions when you look at the T20 World Cup being in India. If there's one format of the game 2 formats of the game I don't think that need oiling from an England perspective, and if it was that kind of format, or the T20s and the 50-over format had to do without a couple of players just for one series, I would have gone with that and made sure that my best players were available for the Test challenge of India. Would it have made a difference? Who knows? Because to play against India in Indian conditions on the pitches that we saw in the last 3 test matches, you may have needed 22 players, not the 11. So probably the same result would have happened, but I just think it's principle, and also putting test match cricket as the number 1. And I just think the eyes have been off the ball in that regard.
I think you'll get 5 belters in the 5 T20s. I have no doubt in my mind you'll get 5 belters, because, India's the home side there as well, but India would want to learn to play on those belters and get their bowling right and get not just 150, 160, maybe learn to win 175, 180. The batting just tapers off a little bit when it comes to picking the one-day side. You don't have the Ashwins and the Akshars taking the batting that deep. Different kinds of players. Do you have a favorite for that?
Well, I would think I think there'll be big scores. You mentioned, India are a very, very, a 160 team in 50 over cricket. We've talked about it at the last World Cup. They look like a 280 team, and the best teams in the world. England have been the best white ball team for a few years. A 320, 330 team in 50 over cricket. And you have to have the ability in 2020 cricket to get 200, 210 if the wicket's flat. India certainly have the talent. They have enough to be able to get those 330s in 50 over cricket, and certainly the 200s in T20 cricket. They've got an outstanding group of players.
Yes, we'll wait and see how that one goes. Michael, that leaves us just one final thing to talk about as we look back. The World Test Championship. There is no England. How will England react? Number one, to the World Test Championship, and this is how it ends. In your view, the other two most accomplished Test sides playing the final, though, because you had to tinker with the points table. I think India were very unhappy that the rules suddenly changed, but as it turns out, India made the final. But New Zealand have only won one away game. I thought England played more Test matches than anybody else. I think that actually hurt them, because if they played the little 2-test series, they would have got 60 points a win. So what are your thoughts on that points table as we look at it? And are the two best teams in there finally?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's been over a period, and the two teams at the top deserve to be in the finals. So, yeah, they've been the best two sides. New Zealand will have 2 games against England to get ready for that Test Championship final. So that might be an advantage to New Zealand.
There's one issue, though. Are the players who are going to play against India in that World Test Championship final also going to play those 2 Test matches against England? Because there's still a big question mark about whether the players are committed to play the IPL will actually go and play those 2 Test matches.
Yeah, well, I think those players that make the IPL final will probably miss the first Test match, and that's from an England perspective as well. I don't agree with that, but that's the decision that they've made. India in the Test Championship final, it's a good way of warming up for the 5 Test match series against England.
Yes, so we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see where that goes. There's so much cricket still to come, so many more conversations to have, so much more heartbreak, so much more joy as well. You can continue watching Cricbuzz Live as you go along. Michael's not going anywhere. Cricbuzz Live will come in as well with the T20 games. So remember, there's a squad we've got. Zahir Khan will join us. Virender Sehwag, who's currently bashing up all opponents in the road safety series. He had 80 or 30 balls the other day. He'll come back. So we've got the whole team, old guard again. When hope all of you join us with Cricbuzz Live. That's on the 12th of March with 5 T20s and thereafter 3 one-day games. So thank you very much for joining us. Enjoyed your company right through this period, Michael, and look forward to having lots and lots and lots more of you on Cricbuzz.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.